Well, hello everyone and welcome. My name is Sharon Bonney. I'm the CEO for the Coalition on Adult Basic Education, and I'm delighted to welcome you to our session today, Intersect 2021 Preview Event, a workforce symposium connecting education and business. And I have here with me today our national partners, Shanika Hope, the Google Director of Tech Ed, Michelle Chang, Department of Commerce Deputy Assistant Secretary for Policy, Rachel Hirsch, the National Governors Association Director, and Jamie Francis, U.S. Chamber of Commerce Executive Director of Programs and Policy. And as we get started, let's just take a moment here to introduce ourselves. If you'd go ahead and put your name and the organization and where you are coming from in the chat box, and then post any questions in the Q&A, we will go ahead and get started. Okay, so I mentioned already we have this lovely panel of presenters. I wanted to first talk a little bit about why I felt this was so important to have this panel. As you know, the Coalition on Adult Basic Education is always looking at how we can bring together both the workforce sector and education and bring them together so that at the national level and the state level then trickles down into the local level, into the local level programs. So we've had a number of different partnerships. We've worked with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, sat on their Committee for Workforce and Education. We've worked with Google on their Applied Digital Skills and other grants that they have had. We've worked with the National Governors Association, sitting on one of their committees as well. And then we also have done some work with the Department of Commerce. So we're very excited to share with you what they are working on. And so with that, I'm going to turn this over to Shanika Hope from Google. Shanika? Shanika, you are muted.
Apologize, I lost the screen for a moment. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Sharon, for that introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Really thrilled to be a part of this conversation today as we discuss how industry and education can partner more effectively to foster equitable workforce. Having spent over 17 years in public education as a teacher, a principal, district leader, and a faculty member, I know firsthand the possibilities of industry and education working hand in hand. This opportunity to blend both the theoretical and the applied or the practice best serves our learners, institutions, and the industry. So why is Google in this work? Well, Google started with a pretty ambitious mission over 20 years ago, which was to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Even back when the web was roughly the size of a small library with only 25 million pages, it seemed like an incredibly ambitious mission. 21 years later, we're indexing millions and millions of pages that combined would reflect more than all the libraries on Earth together today. But as the world has evolved, so have we. Our goal today is to significantly improve the lives of as many people as possible. And so in partnership with education organizations like COAB, community colleges and universities, Google aims to empower others to do the impossible. So supporting academic programming and institutions that successfully prepare learners for careers is essential to growing a diverse, equitable workforce. So as we think about where we are today, next slide, please. At the beginning of 2021, there were 10.7 million people in the US that were unemployed. Yet there's 6.5 million jobs remain unfilled here in the US. Furthermore, next slide, please. We still live in a world where the majority of Americans will not go on to college, where less than half of young adults feel like they are not necessarily getting everything that they need to confront the future and some of the unknowns around the future of workforce. In fact, digital-based middle-skilled jobs are growing 2.5 times faster and offer 18% higher wages. That's in part because of the needs of employers are rapidly changing, accelerated by the pace of technology change. Next slide. So at Google, we launched Grow with Google in 2017. This initiative draws on our 20-year history of building products, platforms, and services that help people and businesses grow. Grow with Google provides free training and tools to help adults grow their skills, their careers, and businesses. Through partnerships with organizations like many of yours, groups like Goodwill and local libraries, We're offering workforce development and career certificates aligned to employability skills that are valued by employers. Next slide, please. So through Grow with Google, we aim to help as many learners and adults across America. And those students, their voices are the ones that matter. And so here's a quick clip that actually lets you hear from a student that's actually benefited from some of these programs. Please. Oh, bummer, the audio. Can you all hear that audio? It was playing earlier. We tested this. While we're not able to hear the audio, one of the things that this video would point out is two individuals that had the benefit of moving through.
A lot of people.
I'm sorry. Let's start this again. Sorry about that.
Otra forma, y me dice, ¿cuándo fue la último que hice? Before I started these classes, I used to work in an office. I realized that I needed to know more about how to use the computer. The knowledge that I had was kind of limited, so I decided to go back to school because I wanted to do better.
When I lost my job, I did see it as an opportunity to reinvent myself. A lot of people take that as a negative, being fired or being let go from their job. I took that negative and I decided to turn it into a positive by coming to learn about what Google has to offer.
Configurando una cuenta de Google, si aún no tienes una, y creando una contraseña segura.
The community I serve here in Daly College are mostly Latino students. Some of the challenges our students face when they're applying for jobs start from basic, not knowing how to apply, how to use the computer. Many of those things that are required in the digital world, they don't have access to those things. And we can avoid that every year more. And by providing these classes, that's exactly what we're doing.
I think I'm taking big steps by taking this program. Education is very important. People never stop learning.
My big goal right now will be getting my associates and working as a machinist. It's going to definitely help me. My next class is a little bit more advanced, and it involves more computers than anything.
See that? So that's our wrist. We're manipulating the wrist there. Right there. Yeah, you got it.
Gotcha.
It's going to help me a lot. I feel confident and empowered.
It's an amazing transformation. Just after 16 weeks of going through this process, they're different people. They have self-esteem and they talk about what they're gonna do. The opportunities are countless.
Thank you for that. I'm so glad the audio worked. Just the stories of Delia and Ulysses, they inspire the work that we do and the partnerships that we have with each of you, with organizations such as yourselves, to really help build programs that create new opportunities for all. Next slide for me. Oh, no worries, okay. So as we get the slides back up, there are 3 programs that I want to specifically highlight today. There are a number of programs that Google has to offer, but 3 specific ones I want to call out. You heard in our opening remarks when Sharon talked about our partnership, CoAP's partnership with Google. One of those programs is something called APSC. That's our Applied Digital Skills Program. This is a program that specifically targets adult learners that provides digital literacy, problem solving, and creativity skills to help adults gain that extra support around those middle skill tech types of competencies. So this is an open, freely available curriculum that's available to students and to educators. Thank you, Sharon. The second program is that called our Google, you got it, perfect, is our Google Career Certificates. And you've heard us mention this a number of times. This is a program that was launched in 2018. And these career certificates are to create a pathway to jobs in IT for individuals with no college degree or tech experience. Of those students that have, or learners that have gone through our career pathways, 53% of those completers are identified as underrepresented or historically marginalized learner groups. And then 59% of those completers do not have a college degree. So this program is really creating opportunity for individuals who do not bring any formal education in tech. And then the third initiative that I'd like to spotlight is the Grasshopper initiative. The Grasshopper curriculum is again, freely available curriculum and digital platform that's designed to teach coding skills using JavaScript. Over 5 million learners use this platform today to develop, again, entry-level foundational coding skills that really helps to prepare them towards career jobs. Next slide. So you can learn more about these particular initiatives by visiting google.com/grow. And there you'll find out and learn more about not just these 3 particular programs, but several other programs that are available to educators, to students, as well as job seekers. Next slide. And so when we think about our impact, Google's digital skilling programs and curriculum are helping millions of adults grow their skills, careers, and businesses. And that impact, next slide, the impact that we've had with these initiatives have enabled us to train over 6 million Americans in digital skills since 2017. Of those 6 million, 20,000 of those individuals are military members and or veterans. Through this network, we've also partnered with over 8,000 organizations, including libraries, schools, and nonprofits. The skilling initiatives that we provided have also placed nearly 170,000 Americans in new jobs with an average increase of 57%. And of these completers, 90% of them feel more prepared for the future. Again, 67% of completers are represented from underrepresented groups, and 44% of them are women. Next slide, please. And so in keeping with our goal to significantly improve the lives of as many individuals as we possibly can, Google is proud to announce our expanded partnership with COAB with a $100,000 award, where Google will be working in partnership with COAB to provide scholarships to adult learners to complete at least one Google Career Certificate. Additionally, this sponsorship will also, or this award will also allow us, Google, to come alongside of COAB to sponsor 2 additional upcoming symposiums, the upcoming Workforce Symposium in November, as well as the Community College Symposium that's scheduled to be released. So we are thrilled to stand with COAB to continue to do this work and to make these initiatives available to you and your institutions. If you want to learn more about some of the things that we're doing at Google, next slide, I'm sorry, please stay tuned and check out the following links that'll give you more information about the various programs that are available at Google. Next slide, there you go. So with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. That was wonderful, Shanika. I really appreciate you sharing all of that with our members. And we will be putting out some more information regarding the special Google opportunities shortly. So with this, I'd like to now turn this over to Rachel Hirsch, the Senior Policy Analyst in Economic Opportunity Division there at National Governors Association. Rachel.
Thank you, Sharon. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. Really honored to be representing National Governors Association on this call, and we're always so happy to partner with COAB and all of you wonderful educators and administrators out there. So I want to start with a quick overview of NGA, what we do. I have a few kind of themes that have been brought up that I think intersects with the adult ed world that I wanted to kind of bring up as food for thought. And then I want to end with an opportunity and an invitation to join us at one of our future engagement opportunities. So the National Governors Association, as you might assume, is the bipartisan association of the governors of the 55 states, territories, and commonwealths. Our chair and vice chair change every year. So as of July, our chair is Governor Asa Hutchinson of Arkansas, and our vice chair is Governor Phil Murphy of New Jersey. NGA does quite a few things, and they're kind of bucketed into 4 different buckets. We do advocate on behalf of governors. We support public-private partnerships with states with our initiatives. We provide membership services to governors, their spouses, and their staff. And then at the NGA Center for Best Practices, which is where I sit, we work across a wide range of policy issues with governors and their staff to foster peer learning and information sharing between states. We research, develop, and implement innovative and best practices in public policy to address today's challenges. Next slide. And our post-secondary education team is really focused on a breadth of policies that aim to help governor staff advance policies and practices that help more students, workers, and just people in general in the United States and within their states attain in-demand post-secondary credentials to enter good, stable careers. And we like to try and practice what we preach and collaborate internally at NGA with other colleagues in different subject areas. Frequently, we work with our workforce and economic development colleagues, children and families, but also folks that are in infrastructure and broadband, health, criminal justice, et cetera. And we are also always looking to partner with national thought partners such as COABE to really make sure we're collaborating, amplifying each other's work, and using collective action to its best result. Next slide. Oh, there we go. So a few themes and trends I just wanted to raise for this group that we've seen, especially over the last year and a half or so. One is that, I would say that post-secondary education and workforce development has always been a focus of governors, but really right now, given the pandemic and the disproportionate impacts, employment impacts in particular, we saw on folks that did not have a post-secondary credential, it's never been more clear that this is a policy area in which we need to continue to improve and continue to make a priority in the states. And state leaders really recognize that this requires a holistic view of education and workforce. This is an important time. I think people are really open to new ideas, innovation, and thinking about how we not only get back to where we were, but get back to a place that's better. We recognize that we weren't in a perfect spot before, and we need to do more to improve that. And to the focus of this panel, business and industry needs to be at the table. Of course, they're always a focus, but I think states are attracted to programs, solutions, partnership and stakeholder engagement that really has business and industry at the forefront, because if you don't have that employer connection, you don't want to skill someone for something that's not there, for someone that's not going to hire them. And it's a two-way street. States need to be better about engaging, but also business and industry needs to come excited to the table as well to form these solutions. The second, and I'll reference a project we had last year that at COABE, and actually we had someone from Google present to that project as well. Our Reskilling and Recovery Network really was stood up in summer of 2020 in response to all the displaced workers that were displaced due to the pandemic, and focused on states engaging with their community college system to help. So that was a peer learning network where we actually got 21 state teams to sign up within just about 2 weeks of launching that. So the need was there. And equity was and is really at the forefront of mind for many states. And we know that adult ed has been a strong partner here. Over 70% of adult ed participants are people of color. We also know that focusing on women who also have been disproportionately affected is really important. And states are eager to hear from folks that have been doing this work for a while, have ideas. And I also want to point out the importance of data here. So states are really looking at more ways that they can start to collect and disaggregate data by race, ethnicity, citizenship, tribal status, things like this. Not only in terms of participation, but really important in terms of outcomes and impacts, so that they can identify where their gaps are, create a solution, but then make sure that that solution is actually working. So we're working with states to try and implement strategies there. The third, which is kind of a pet project of mine, but we also have a policy academy on scaling work-based learning that has been going on for over 6 years. We've now engaged 24 states and territories through that. Apprenticeship expansion continues to be something that is being supported by the federal government. States are very excited about it, but something that is very important to the adult ed audience is that pre-apprenticeship has really become more of a focus as of late. We know that to get into an apprenticeship program, oftentimes there's already a certain level of skill in terms of math or digital or literacy that you need to have, but pre-apprenticeships are a really important way to get people those basic skills so that they can enter and succeed in an apprenticeship. And states are starting to certify pre-apprenticeships, create quality standards, which is really important. So I think this is an area to watch going forward as well. Next slide. And then finally, I wanted to end with an opportunity. So we recently launched the State Equitable Recovery Coalition, which is both an actual coalition of national organizations working at the intersection of post-secondary education, state policy, equity, and economic recovery. but also a learning opportunity for states. So we will be hosting a series of action labs focusing on specific policy actions that states can take in this area. And our first one will be on SNAP employment and training. And the first day of that will be open to the public. So we really hope that you'll join us for that. We will be also working with specific state teams, although we have yet to announce that yet. But if it's one of your states, then even more reason to look out for that. We will be opening registration for that shortly, and that will get sent out through COABE as well. And our next one in December, TBD, will be on ability to benefit, which obviously is incredibly important to this crowd. So we hope that you'll join us and weigh in and share your expertise at those. And I've included my contact information for follow-up as well.
Thanks so much, Rachel. I also wanted to mention, I was very interested in your piece on apprenticeship. COABE held an apprenticeship strand at our national conference, and we're also part of that Department of Center for Excellence through the Department of Labor. So that will be specifically focusing on apprenticeship. So we're happy to partner with you on that too. Great. Well, now I'd like to turn this over to Jamie Francis, the Executive Director of Programs and Policy at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. Jamie?
Thanks so much, Sharon, and great to be with all of you. A huge thanks to the COABE community for all of your contributions to adult education to date. You're often an under-resourced and not brought to the table early enough in the types of partnerships that we're discussing today. So we hear you, we see you, and you are certainly an important part of creating sustainable and meaningful solutions to communities all across this country and across the world. So excited to be with you today. If you want to switch to the next slide to talk about the Chamber of Commerce Foundation's workforce portfolio. For those of you who are not as familiar with us, we're the nonprofit affiliate of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, made up of federation of amazing state and local chambers across the country, as well as close to 3 million businesses, large and small. Through that affiliation, we have an opportunity to encourage employers to think outside of the box when it comes to talent strategies. And that's really where talent pipeline management comes into play. It is a framework that is built by employers for employers, but not employer alone. So I'll have an opportunity just to talk a little bit about the framework and why it came about, but also the critical role that adult education plays in terms of these sustainable talent solutions and strategies. But this theory is really based on supply chain management, which is something that many businesses are very familiar with. It's how they operate on their day-to-day. And what's very critical about TPM is that it does put employers in the end customer role to really try to unlock employer engagement and leadership in a new way. We hear from many of our provider partners, some of whom are on the call today, that one of the most difficult challenges that they have is really trying to keep employers engaged and working with them to provide solutions for learners and workers. And TPM is meant to help employers understand the critical role that they play and to better help them organize as a collaborative group on what their most critical needs are and become better communicators to education and training partners. So we created this framework a number of years ago, then tested it in pilot phase. What came out of that pilot was a resounding, we need more folks across the country doing this work. It's commonly led by chambers of commerce, industry associations, economic development organizations, and we train folks on the TPM framework over the course of a couple of months and then encourage them to go back to their communities and implement. So a critical component of this, of course, is I keep talking about the employer role, and the providers play such an important role as well. But we have found that it is really critical to give employers a safe space to come together and talk through what their talent needs are so that they can eventually be more effective communicators to their education and training partners. So Sharon, if you want to switch to the next slide. So I love these visuals because I think it really helps demonstrate the power of communication and the ability to encourage the employer to constantly be facilitating and providing information to their education and training partners, no matter who that be. And TPM is very agnostic in terms of who makes up a talent supply chain network. And adults are such a critical component of this. I think of the many stats that Shanika put up there and how Rachel talked about the importance of impact and outcomes. And so much of that really speaks to the heart of talent pipeline management, of which you all are such a critical role. So you can imagine how powerful it could be if you had a group of anywhere from 3 to 90 employers coming to you saying, you know, we've all kind of gotten on the same page in terms of what our most 10 critical core competencies are for these jobs that we're desperate to fill. How could we partner together to fill those needs, make sure that your constituencies, that your audience are getting the training and the education or work-based learning experiences that they need to have this seamless transition to employment. And that's what these visuals display. So that first one is taking a traditional supply chain management approach of taking a raw material and allowing it to add value before it gets to the end customer. Now, of course, we are not saying that students are widgets or that institutions of learning or any type of training partner is like a manufacturer or distributor, but the principles that hold that really hold for the translation from supply chain to talent supply chains is that concept of adding value. And how can we as the employer community do a better job of identifying what are those experiences? What is that training or that education or support services that are needed to help that student or worker make their way to employment and in a meaningful way to them and certainly a meaningful way to the employer. So I really like to focus on that shared value concept because TPM is not only really focused on that employer return on investment, which helps with the employer engagement and leadership piece, but really what do the students and learners get out of this? What do the education and training partners get out of it as well? Stronger partnerships and definitely stronger outcomes. So throughout the entire framework, we're really focused on thinking about what brought the employers together in the first place, what was that critical pain point, what are those critical jobs, and then tying every action that we have there on out to making sure that we're thinking of performance measures that are going to demonstrate success for those pain points, for those critical jobs. So when we're organizing employers to think through and to be really intentional about data collection of where do those jobs exist and what time do they need to be filled? What are the quality standards that need to be met to fill those jobs successfully? Where do we currently get our talent from? How does that compare to the demographics in our region? Are we going to be able to achieve our diversity and inclusion goals if we're going to traditional partners that don't attract or educate or train people of color or women or other underrepresented populations? So let's ensure that we're being really thoughtful about these talent strategies because that's what it ultimately will take to result in success for all partners. So we provide this training through a TPM Academy that is traditionally in person, of course, now in a virtual world, but we're excited to announce that we will be launching an online learning platform for TPM called TPM CoLab in Q3 of 2022 so that it will be more widely available. So many education and training partners were interested in this framework and many of them have attended our trainings to date, but we really want to expand access to folks who want to know more about TPM. So we've actually created a specialized track for education and training partners, as well as employers, as well as chambers of commerce and industry associations. So that's new content that will make its way into the hands and hopefully we'll get to work with partners like Sharon and many of you on this call to partake in that training experience and be able to leverage TPM to benefit you and your communities. Another exciting announcement that I wanted to make on this call is that we have recently received support from the Lumina Foundation to stand up two career readiness TPM academies, and that we'll be looking at our content through the lens of community college systems and thinking through how we can be more thoughtful in our approach of partnering with community colleges. So we will partner with a couple of states to host TPM academies for them and to bring together the community college partners and employer partners with one another to strategically think about their partnerships and how it is that they can be more effective in increasing enrollments for programs in which that are related to the most critical jobs in those regions, increasing persistence and increasing completion of those programs. And then of course, looking to making sure that that folks who go through those programs are able to find employment in related jobs to the training experience that they went through. So that work will get kicked off in early 2022. So we're very excited to continue to bring more news to your network and hopefully engage you all in the work that we're doing because we know how critical the constituency that you all educate and that you all work with are to our overall talent challenges that so many industries, so many businesses, large and small, no one is spared in this economy, right? So we need to make sure that all hands are on deck to bringing adult education to the forefront of the solution for this problem.
Great, thank you so much, Jamie. I appreciate that. And we'll be happy to disseminate any information you have for members in the future.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, now I would like to introduce Michelle Chang. She's the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Policy at the U.S. Department of Commerce. Michelle, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Sharon, and thanks so much for having us here today. Very excited to be with folks from COAB and be part of the Adult Education and Family Literacy Week. I wanted to spend a few moments today just getting in front of this group to talk about some exciting programs that we have at the Economic Development Administration. We recently received $3 billion as part of the American Rescue Plan Act and are really excited about getting these funds into communities across our country because we know many communities have been extremely hard hit during this pandemic, and we really want to make sure that these funds are getting out into the hands of folks that can really help make a difference. So we'll give a little bit of overview on that. Next slide, please. For those who aren't familiar with EDA, our mission is to lead the federal economic agenda for the federal government, and we are really focused on promoting innovation and competitiveness. And our three main goals are exactly that: helping increase the global economic competitiveness of our country, supporting a community-led economic development, and helping communities develop resilient and agile local economies. Next slide. As I mentioned, we received a historic $3 billion in the American Rescue Plan Act. For context sake, the Economic Development Administration traditionally has an annual budget of $300 million, so this is quite an increase. And so we're really looking to put these funds to help support bottom-up economic development that is focused on advancing equity while also creating good-paying jobs and helping workers get the skills that they need to be able to secure quality jobs. Altogether, we really want to make sure that these funds go to helping communities across our country build back stronger, particularly after this pandemic. Next slide. So there's a lot on this next slide. I will point you to the EDA's website, which outlines information on how we are distributing this $3 billion. It is eda.gov/ARPA. That stands for American Rescue Plan Act. If you go to that website, there are links to all 6 of the different programs that we have under this American Rescue Plan funding. But this slide gives a quick snapshot of the different programs. I'll do a quick overview. We are offering $750 million to go towards travel, tourism, outdoor recreation industries. This was mandated by the act that we allocated these funds towards those industries. 2 that I'm going to dive into a little bit more is the second program is the Good Jobs Challenge. This is $500 million to go towards workforce development initiatives, particularly helping strengthen workforce systems across regions across our country, as well as sectoral partnerships. We're also offering $500 million in EDA's traditional economic adjustment assistance program. This is our most flexible program that can fund a wide range of activities, anything from infrastructure, technical assistance, to workforce development programs, to revolving loan funds. This is kind of our catch-all program for any sort of economic assistance that regions across our country are looking for. The Indigenous Communities Challenge is $100 million that we are offering specific to Indigenous communities. Our 5th program, our Buildback Regional Challenge, I'll talk about this one a little bit more too. This is $1 billion that we are putting towards 20 to 30 regions across our country to be able to fund industry clusters. And so we are going to look to fund each region between $25 to $75 million to be able to build out industry clusters in their communities. And then lastly, we have a statewide planning, research, and networks program. We are offering every state and territory in our country $1 million to do statewide economic development planning. And then we are also looking for organizations to do research on the programs that we are funding, as well as to build communities of practice. So if there are organizations out there that are looking to help build a community or help do research around these programs, we certainly encourage you to take a look at those. Next slide. I'll talk a bit about the Good Jobs Challenge. This is one I think is particularly relevant to this group. This program is really focused on helping Americans, particularly those that were displaced during the pandemic, get back into quality jobs. And so what we're aiming to do with this program is to fund the establishment or the strengthening of regional workforce systems that will train workers with the skills that they need to be able to land good quality jobs. We are looking for programs that are employer-driven that will help really support participants throughout their time that they're going through training. One of the exciting things about this program is that we are able to fund wraparound services which we often know become a barrier for workers to be able to complete training. So anything from transportation, childcare, language support, career coaching, those are all eligible uses of funds under this program. So the three major phases of work that we are looking to fund through this program, the first is system development. So that's the actual establishment of a workforce system or sectoral partnership. So really looking to fund a backbone organization or an intermediary to be able to pull together the right organizations in a region to be able to create that workforce initiative. The second phase is program design. We are looking to fund the actual development of training curriculum and materials, as well as securing the technical expertise to train workers. We are also looking for strong employer commitments to hire. We want to make sure that workers are taking time to be able to upskill and reskill, are able to get quality jobs at the end of the day. So we are really looking for proposals that have strong employer engagement, as well as strong employer commitments to hire folks who successfully complete training. And then the last piece that we're funding is the actual program implementation. So the actual implementation of the training and the delivery of that training, as well as the connection for those workers to land those quality jobs and also have the wraparound services that they need to be able to complete that training. Next slide. So I think those were the main things I wanted to just give a heads. Oh, I think there was one more. Yeah, thanks, Sharon. One other program I just wanted to touch on was the Buildback Better Regional Challenge. This is our biggest program, $1 billion that will be going, like I mentioned, to 20 to 30 regions ultimately to be able to build out industry clusters in their communities. It is a two-phased grant competition. The first deadline is coming up, so I wanted to mention that. The first phase is a concept, basically a concept proposal that regions will be putting forward. And we will be funding 50 to 60 regions technical assistance grants to be able to help prepare their applications for phase 2 and to mature their clusters. So each of those regions will receive about $500,000 to be able to build out their proposals. And then in phase 2, the application deadline for that is March 15th. We will then select 20 to 30 of those phase 1 finalists to actually receive the big implementation grants, which will be between 25 to potentially up to $100 million each. And so this program is really exciting. Just for context, we typically fund industry clusters more in the couple $1 million range. And so to be able to give this amount of money to regions across our community, we are very excited about and are really looking forward to working with communities across our country to hopefully really jumpstart their economies and be able to potentially really invest in industries that are high growth that will help provide and create new jobs. Next slide. What you see on this slide is just a bunch of resources to help folks get started. Like I mentioned, I do want to point you to our website, eda.gov/ARPA. There is a ton of resources there, recorded webinars, FAQs, links to the applications and the notice of funding opportunities, but also really encourage you all to, if you're interested in these programs, to reach out to your local economic development district for planning support and technical assistance, as well as your state's economic development representative. There's one in every state we've got folks standing by ready to answer any questions that you may have about this opportunity. But really wanted to just take some time to mention these opportunities because this is really what we're saying is a once in a generation opportunity to have this amount of money to go into economic development for our country. So hope you all take advantage of that.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I know that our members will find this interesting. I know I sure do. And I'll be checking out the resources as well. So thank you for sharing that with our members.
Thanks, Sharon.
Wonderful. So at this point, I'd like to now welcome Lori Kierstead-Joseph. She's our workforce chair for the Coalition on Adult Basic Education. And Lori, isn't this so interesting hearing from all of these panelists?
This panel has been such a great informative panel and a great framing for what we're going to share next. So hi, everybody. I am thrilled to be here and to share that we are officially announcing our upcoming symposium, Intersect 2021, a workforce symposium connecting educators and business. The goal of the symposium is to bring together workforce system partners and employers to learn, to collaborate, to network all with the goal of working together toward the skilled workforce that business and industry need. Today's panelists spoke to the need for innovation and collaboration and the importance of making sure that business and industry are at the table. So at this symposium, Intersect 2021, we will hear from industry experts and we will showcase promising practices and partnerships. Our vision is to support employers, adult ed providers, workforce development boards, community colleges, and community-based organizations in working together to leverage all of our strengths, to break down silos, and to move toward the vision of a more unified workforce system to ensure that there are pathways for all of our adult learners to upskill. Thanks to generous sponsorship and partners, COABE is offering this one-day virtual symposium free of charge for attendees. So please save the date, November 9th, and get registered so that you can join us for what is sure to be an impactful event.
Great. Thank you, Lori. That's wonderful. And thank you to Google for their sponsorship, their fiscal sponsorship of this symposium. Google, Essential Ed, and Dollar General are our fiscal sponsors. And then we have a number of other organizations that are providing sponsorship through donating their time and their expertise and their resources. So we're really excited about this. We're hoping that those of you in the field will join us. But we also, before we go any further, we wanted to open it up to see if there's any questions. I do not see any in the Q&A. Just looking through here real quick. If there's any questions, now's your opportunity. Please do not put them in the chat box. Please put them in the Q&A. Okay. So one question, how do adult ed organizations get involved with the Good Jobs Challenge? And Michelle, would you like to take that?
Sure. Sorry, it took a second there to get to the mute button. So there are lots of opportunities for folks to get involved with the Good Jobs Challenge. First of all, I encourage you to take a look at our website again, eda.gov/ARPA. There's a link to the Good Jobs Challenge website, and there's a wealth of information there on how to get involved. I will note that there is one deadline for that application for that program. It is January 26, 2022. We have provided a pretty long timeline for folks to be able to put together proposals because as you will read through the application, there's quite a bit that we're looking for in terms of proposals. Like I mentioned, we have a strong desire to have employer commitments to hire. We want to make sure that those are secured and that there are strong employer engagement. And so as you'll see in the application, we're really looking for an ecosystem approach to these proposals. So really bringing together a strong partnership of government, local nonprofits, training providers, community colleges, local labor unions, all the different players that really are required to be able to put together a strong proposal. So would encourage you to work with partners in your region to collaborate and coordinate to make sure that you aren't duplicating efforts, but certainly take a look at our website, reach out to your local economic development representative. They can also help connect you with folks in your area that may be putting together proposals.
Thank you, Michelle. We also see a question here. How can providers partner with Google at the local level? Shanika, would you like to answer that one?
Sure. Thank you for that question. There are a number of ways that that local partners can connect with Google. The first place I'd start is with Grow with Google. There's a number of opportunities where you can specifically lean in on, for example, like the Google Career Certificate opportunity, where we work with local partners to bring those to communities. A second way to get involved is through google.org, which is our foundation side of our organization, where we have a number of priorities that we partner with local partners around specific issues around like workforce and development or economic recovery, literacy. There's even right now a focus around supporting seniors. So google.org is another place that I would direct you. And then finally, would be our Code with Google initiative. And all of these initiatives, if you literally just go to growwithgoogle.com, you'll see all of those initiatives that I've laid out. But with our Code with Google initiative, that's another place where we provide not just curriculum, but teacher professional development opportunities to come in and work alongside of educators to develop them and train them in the curriculum around these specific career pathways and the digital skills. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. I'll give just one more minute here to see if there's any more questions, and if not, we can give you back 15 minutes of your day. No? Okay. Well, thank you everybody for taking time to join us today. Special thank you to our distinguished panel. We really appreciate you making time to talk with COABE and the adult educators that are here on this webinar with us. So thank you everybody. We hope to see you at Intersect 2021. But in the meantime, happy Adult Ed and Family Literacy Week. Bye now.